Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul joined alongside Jack Weinberger and Robert Ziggy Ziegler at the University of Virginia. Sorry for my appearance right now. I've been having a little nosebleed that just won't go away. So
it happens.
Yeah. I'm not sure anyone would have noticed if you hadn't pointed that out right now.
Yeah, just in case people are like, why does Paul have a clog in his nose right now?
Paul really likes stuffing things up his nose. It's his number one pastime.
Yeah, that's the reason right there.
You know where I like stuffing things?
Oh, jeez. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Yeah, Ziggy has had enough early in this episode. Okay, guys. So today we're just going to do a mailbag. We have a couple questions from everyone. It's good to get back to the mailbags. We haven't had one of those for a while. So, and of course, you can remember that you always get your question read on these mailbags if you are a member and you write into the post that we put out, usually the day before the mailbag is released. So let's hop into it, guys. From Cubs2110, he says, "Hey guys, love the show and enjoy your content. Last year, we saw some quarterbacks at the bottom of the league ascend into the top 10 like Jordan Love and CJ Stroud. We also saw some regression from Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence. Which QBs do you see ascending into the top 15/top 10 this season? Also, which QBs do you think will regress and be worse by the end of the year?" Anyone jump out to you guys?
That's a good question. What does he mean? Like ascend into the top 10 to 15 who wasn't there initially?
Well, it's interesting because the two people that Cubs picked were rookies, right? So I'm not sure whether you count that as ascending or not.
First-year starters, so to say.
I mean, Jordan Love, you couldn't really rank him anywhere with CJ, like with CJ Stroud. The people I'm looking forward to ascend. Top 15 is not as high as it sounds. It means average quarterback play. I think the two names you have to pick just off the people we know are Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, right? Both of them. Anthony Richardson looked great when he played. If he puts together a healthy season, I fully expect he'll be flirting with top 10 by the end of the year. Levis, I'm not quite as high on, but he did pretty well in a Titans offense that was not functional at all. It wouldn't take a lot of improvement, especially of how much better things have gotten around him. Losing Derek Henry sucks, but adding some receivers, adding to the offensive line, I think he's my number one candidate to move from bottom 10 to top 15.
I think I would actually go with Russell Wilson. Being non-biased and dead serious. I mean, a good organization who runs things well, a quarterback who we know has talent deep down inside somewhere, new look, new squad. I'm gonna go Russ.
I think in terms of someone regressing, maybe you could potentially see it from Baker, who was playing as a top 15 quarterback for a lot of last season. Just trying to think of some guys who could fall back a bit. It's funny, no one would have ever believed if you said Jalen Hurts would have the regression that he had over the second half of last season. But Baker, what was it, Ziggy? Weren't you the one who brought up the every other year or something for Baker?
Yeah, no, Baker Mayfield goes from very good to very bad every other year. And again, people have commented, and this is right. You can find injuries, you can find coaching problems. Like, it's not totally random. But Baker Mayfield has never put together two good seasons in a row.
Yeah, I'd say he's a candidate. He's not someone that I think Baker will actually have a good year, but I'd say he's a candidate for regression, just because we haven't seen him string together multiple great seasons or very good seasons in a row. All right, from James Library, who is also a member. Thank you, James. He says, "Hey guys, who do you think is most likely to underperform this year? Derek Henry or Christian McCaffrey? Keep up the amazing job." Underperform.
Can I say one thing about James Library?
Yeah, please.
I tuned into James Library short where he was reading Mutability by William Wordsmith. Really excellent channel. If you're looking for somebody to read poetry, Shakespeare, he did a Ray Bradbury short story. Feel free to check out James Library. That's all I'm saying. That promotion's free, by the way.
He's a loyal listener.
Oh, James always comments. It's very nice of him. It's hard not to say that it would be Derek Henry. I do think he'll still have a very good season in terms of underperforming, maybe from the statistics he had last year. 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. He had 280 carries again. With Lamar, with Keaton Mitchell there, I don't think Baltimore is going to run him into the ground the way we saw in Tennessee. They want him fresh, ready for the playoffs. So I think you're going to see a more sparingly used Derek Henry, who will still be productive, but probably the numbers will be a little bit less than you normally see. Now, if you're comparing it season to season, it's hard to just say McCaffrey will have another MVP year. I get that. But my pick in terms of who will look at and be like, oh, that's not their usual numbers, would be Derek Henry.
I'd probably go CMC just based on the sky high expectations that he's going to have. People are talking about Derek Henry's age. I know people are a little bit down on on him, more so than they have been in prior years. CMC will be a number one fantasy pick. Expectations through the roof. MVP expectations through the roof. So just because of what people think of him, and for good reason, I'm going to go CMC.
I don't know, though. This is a good question because, well, you're right. There's a lot of expectation on CMC. How many posts have you seen that have said the Ravens are a Super Bowl contender with Derek Henry?
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot. And I think, I know Ravens fans are unhappy with me for this take, and I get it. But I think things will be worse in Baltimore this year than they were last year. So I think that if the expectations of Derek Henry are to make this franchise better than last year, to perform even better, to be a Super Bowl contender again, I think that's a huge ask for a guy that's got 2,200 career carries. Because what that really means is about 2,200 career times getting tackled in the NFL. That's just a lot. And at some point, it's going to catch up to him. I've got Derek Henry is more likely to underperform, even if I think he's going to have a good season.
Same here. All right, let's move along here from Chris Kramer. He says, missed you guys. Welcome back. Just curious what your thoughts are on the new kickoff rules. I understand it's safer and all that, but besides being confusing, I really miss the excitement of the old school, original way it was done. I will also miss the old kickoffs just in terms of tradition. Under the new rules, kickers will be kicking off from their own 35-yard line, and you'll have the kicking team players lined up on the receiving team's 40-yard line, and then there's a range, the 30 to 35 of the receiving team, where the receiving team blockers, at least 9 of them, must be set up. That's how it's going to go. You're going to kick off into a landing zone most of the time between the goal line and the 20-yard line. You have to wait for the ball to land or be caught before you can run. Just the general gist of the rule. I think it's fine. Like, I do think that it's good to make the game safer as much as you can, and I don't think you're really losing that much value other than the aesthetic of the kickoff. So I'm okay with it. I'll miss the old one, but
I'll say this. I think that once you see the rules in action, they're not going to be nearly as confusing, right? Anytime you're reading rules for what a play looks like, imagine if you had to memorize all the rules for where people need to be on the line of scrimmage. Doesn't make any sense until you see it in action. I think kickoffs, once people get used to it, are going to be so much more fun than they ever have been. For the following reason, right? Most kickoffs, even in the old days, it was just straight line speed. It was, do you have the ability to outrun the guys who are chasing after you and get a little bit lucky with holes? You are going to see, and special teams coordinators like Bones Fassel have been talking about this in the offseason, scripted plays, pitches, like you're basically running a special kind of play from the backfield. You're going to see new players involved. It's not just going to be the fastest guy on the field. Running backs, wide receivers, physical play is going to be a lot more important. And in the XFL, you saw this. Estimates say that kickers were involved in the tackle on as much as 40% of kickoffs. So you're going to get to see kickers getting a lot more involved too. So I think those new rules, the fact that teams will be running plays, more types of players can get involved. You'll get to see, it'll look a lot more like street football with the pitches and the juking and all of that. I think it's going to be a lot more fun than we've had before.
I mean, I get it, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it. It's not something that's going to deter me from watching football. But I do like when the ball's kicked off and the second it's kicked, you have 10 guys bolting as fast as they can down the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why they're getting rid of it, to get rid of it.
Yeah, so I understand it, but overall, I'd say 70% of me will miss the traditional kickoff and seeing someone get blown up like a 15-yard line.
So Florida Thief says, hey, y'all, love your content. Do y'all plan on creating a fantasy football league? If so, count me in. Probably not fantasy league because that's hard to get everybody involved, but we'll have a pick'em league throughout the season with prizes coming in and out. From Haravan FAQs, he says, fantasy scenario, Jordan Love and the Packers can't work things out and he becomes a free agent. The Vikings have the opportunity to sign him. Do you do it? And if so, what kind of contract do you sign him for? How many years? How much money? I mean,
what does he want?
Yeah, whatever he wants.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever he
wants.
If
if we could take Jordan Love from the Packers, I'm giving up JJ McCarthy. I'm giving up future first-round picks. I'm giving up, if he wants 1 year, $200 million, I'm signing him to that. Whatever it takes to get Jordan Love away from the Packers, I'm in.
All right. From Craig Sheeran, he says, have any of you gone to any games? And if so, which one was your favorite? I've been to a bunch of Viking games. I'm like 1-6 in my career there. So the favorite one was the one they won at Monday Night Football at home against the Giants, probably. For NFL games.
Just NFL. Yeah, so I'll go Steelers, probably. The 09 AFC championship game. When Troy Polamalu picked off Joe Flacco, ran it back.
Yeah, what an awesome moment for the Steelers.
And ended up winning the Super Bowl.
How about you, Ziggy?
I've only ever been to one NFL game. It was that horrendous Bears-Vikings game at Soldier Field, where we had our longtime friend of the program, member Weston Dow, just celebrating every time the Vikings screwed up. A whole stadium just full of people who hated our guts. Made me never want to go back to an NFL game, so I haven't been to one.
That was a tough introduction for you.
It was a great introduction to being a Vikings fan, though.
It was the perfect introduction. Yeah, we had no highlights. The only highlight we had that game was a Harrison Smith interception I was in the bathroom for. From Merle, who says, and Merle, thank you, always leaving comments. Who's one of your sleepers to be in the league, a league winner in fantasy this year? We haven't done our fantasy episode yet. That'll be coming out a little bit later. But someone that I keep seeing brought up is Zamir White with the Raiders. Now, I don't know if I like to have guys that are part of high octane offenses, and I'm not sure that I'm counting on the Raiders being that. But if this is any consolation for it, over the final 4 weeks when Josh Jacobs was out, Zamir White operated as the RB9 in terms of points. So if he gets the full role, there's not a lot of competition in Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah behind him. So keep an eye on Zamir White.
I go Dalton Kincaid. I think he puts up Kelsey numbers this year.
I mean, yeah, with the guys they have out there in Buffalo right now, he's in line to arguably be the number one target.
I'll roll with him.
For me, it's Calvin Ridley. He's going as the 35th wide receiver off the board. He finished just like the 26th or 27th best receiver in fantasy last year. And I think with the Titans, with Will Levis, the Jaguars did a terrible job taking advantage of his talents last year. This guy can still run routes very well. And I think next to DeAndre Hopkins, all Calvin Ridley needs to do to significantly outperform his draft stock is to be one of the 30 highest producing wide receivers in the league. I think that's very likely to happen. So for me, I think that's a lock as a fantasy sleeper.
I like that. Two rookies I kind of like are Ladd McConkey and Jonathan Brooks. I could see Jonathan Brooks taking over that job. I'm not too worried about Chuba Hubbard in Carolina.
Oh, Chuba Hubbard's one of my number one running back sleeper.
I'm done. I'm done.
Jonathan Brooks is coming back from a torn ACL.
I trust him more than Chuba Hubbard. I've had Chuba Hubbard for a few years. I'm done. I'm done with the Chuba Hubbard experiment.
Hey, when was the last time you were done with a player in fantasy, sold them for pennies on the dollar? When was that?
Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, when you were done with the Brandon Ayuk experience and gave him up for him in a second round pick for Alexander Madison,
who is now backing up my sleeper.
What was the worst one you made again?
The Burrow for Devontae Parker.
Right, yeah.
I look. Hey, I've had my
come to us. I'm just saying.
I've had my fair share of mistakes. From Ryu Hatsuya, he says, "Do you foresee any rookies having a potential breakout year, akin to Puka or Sauce Gardner? Akin.
Any rookies having a breakout year?
I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. should be great.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't want to say that's expected. I don't really want to say.
I think Ladd McConkey could be really good with the Chargers.
I do like Ladd McConkey.
I mean, who do they have? Josh Palmer's there, like Johnston. I think Ladd McConkey could evolve into that number one spot if.
What are the other really good Texas receiver who plays for the Colts?
I'm sorry. Who?
That Texas receiver who plays for the Colts.
Oh, Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah, him. He's good.
Yeah, I don't know if I see like superstar in Adonai. I mean, I think I see explosiveness, but yeah, I mean, he's also awesome. The Texas skill position players, man. They're very good last season.
One player you're not hearing a lot about, I think, is we're looking for players who are kind of obscure, but that have a chance to get a lot of production. Jalen Polk has a chance to be the wide receiver one on the Patriots. And I know that doesn't sound super exciting.
Was he Washington?
He was Texas Tech. And then he went to Washington.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I think he's got, especially if they're able to get Drake May in there pretty early throwing bombs downfield. He could he's really good in the run game, right? He's an excellent blocker. I think he will see the field early and often. That means he could start putting up big numbers. But it is unusual to see. We've seen in the past few years, like rookie wide receivers setting records. That's not common, and I wouldn't expect it to happen this year.
Well, take a look at Polk. From Elise1715, who's also a member. Thank you, Elise. She says, or she or he, I don't know. Which team is the most likely to go from first to last in their division. And looking over this one, it's always so hard to predict like big jumps in a division like that. So the way I approach this was, okay, like if I'm betting on who would be first to last, not like third, not regress a little bit, first to last.
There's two teams you can pick here.
I had three here.
Okay.
I do think that the Buccaneers have to be the number one. They're good. Like I think Tampa's good and should be a playoff threat throughout the year, especially given their division. But is it shocking if they implode? No, it shouldn't be. There were two more, and this is not based on prefacing this is not based on what I think about the team itself. I think they'll both be very, very good. It's more the division they're in. I think the Texans would be my number two. In the Houston, I expect them to have a huge season, but I think the Jaguars are good. I think the Colts could be very good. I think the Titans can surprise some people. So I have the Texans as the number 2. 3, I'd be stunned, but the Ravens just given the AFC North. If things go wrong, I'd be shocked though. But okay, the Buccaneers is my easy one.
Yeah, the Buccaneers are the only team I can see this happening to without injury. Just because last year they lost people this offseason, and last year they were barely good enough to win a historically bad division. All they need is for the Panthers to get decent, and the Buccaneers have a decent chance of finishing last, just because I don't think they're that good. And then, as you say, to go first to last for these other teams, the Ravens and the Texans, those are my two other teams that have a chance. If the quarterback gets hurt, the teams around them are good enough to just beat them consistently, I think. And that puts you in a volatile spot compared to, say, the 49ers, where I think even if things go poorly for them, or the Cowboys or the Eagles, even if things go poorly for them, there's enough teams to beat up on that you probably don't finish last.
Yeah, I'd go, you know how I'm going to go. But I'm going to go Baltimore, only because Cincy, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh are 3 very solid teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ravens. That's the show motto.
Yeah. The Ravens will come in last.
I was trying to approach this without the injury perspective as well. Just like, if the season were to play out, and the Ravens should be very, very good. So should the Texans and the Bucs. But there's just no way the Bills are coming in last. No way the Chiefs or the Cowboys. Like, it's just not happening. From XX McLovin, XX, he says, is Herbert just another Derek Carr? People always saying how talented he is, but Herbert so far is a below 500 quarterback. He's 30-32 in his career. Kind of like most of Derek Carr's career, people always blaming the team, LOL. First off, Derek Carr is a very good quarterback. I want to acknowledge that first. Derek Carr had a lot of really good seasons in Oakland and then Las Vegas before heading over to New Orleans. So his career is nothing to kind of snuff at, but no, I wouldn't say. I think Justin Herbert has consistently shown top 5 level quarterback play. I mean, there have been some hiccups here or there, but when you just watch Justin Herbert play football, generally speaking, he has been on some bad teams too. I think he carried them a lot last season, even though, their record wasn't good, but Justin Herbert consistently performs like a top 5, top 10 quarterback who anyone in the league would immediately take. Just ask yourself that question. When Derek Carr throughout his career, how many times would 30 or 27 teams immediately say, yes, I want Derek Carr, versus how many would say, I want Justin Herbert?
Here's an easy way to put the team failure in perspective, I think. Derek Carr, when the defense has allowed 20 or fewer points, his career record is 28-17. Not particularly exciting, right? Decent. He's done pretty well. Justin Herbert has played 16 games when the Chargers have allowed 20 or fewer points. You know what his record is in those games?
It's like 14-2 or something?
16-0.
Wow.
When the defense allows 28 or fewer, his record is 20-5. Right? When the defense is 28 points is so many points to give up as a defense. When Justin Herbert's defense is slightly below average, he wins 75% of his games. When Derek Carr's defense is close to average, he wins 60%. They are not the same.
That's an awesome stat. I mean, I was just like Justin Herbert is elite. He's one of the best. He puts up the numbers. He's top 6, top 7 talent consistently every year. His offense is a few years a bit fought the injury bug. I mean, I think he's awesome. I think Derek Carr's a good quarterback, or has been, but it's not comparable.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in 10% of Justin Herbert's career games, he scored 30 or more points and lost. When Tom Brady scored 30 or more points and lost, he lost 9 times out of the 383 career games he played.
Jeez.
So just to put in perspective, again, Justin Herbert, every single season, the defense lets him down. Let's not forget, he's putting up these weapons with injured Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, who shows up for 2 games a year, and Josh frickin' Palmer, often as his wide receiver 1. I'm sorry, they're not the same.
The second question from XX McLovin is, secondly, which Packer do you think will have more of a breakout season? One who will most likely be, One who will most likely be the most consistent, Josh Jacobs, Watson, Dobbs, etc. In terms of a Packer breakout player for this season, it's tough. Well, we always go to the receivers. I mean, Jacobs, I don't even think Jacobs will break out. We know Josh Jacobs is just awesome. Breakout among the receivers, I think that's a fun spot to look, because the defense as well. I mean, there's a lot of candidates. You got young, talented guys who really haven't lived up to potential with Jeff Hafley coming in. As far as the receivers go, whenever Christian Watson's healthy, I think he's really impressive. It's just a matter of whether or not, his hamstrings can be in good shape. So I think he has the most potential of the group. I know people really like Wicks, and people are really excited about Jaden Reed, but to me, when Christian Watson's healthy, he is the guy. And I think he's got Pro Bowl potential. It's just a matter of staying on the field. So I'll say Watson, but I don't expect him to stay healthy given the history he's had.
Yeah, it's really just, it's kind of like a pick and choose. Any one of these guys could. It's 4 very solid receivers. I'm going to go, I'll be a little fun. I'll go with Wicks.
I'm guessing based on the fact that XX McLovin XX put that et cetera there, we can pick whoever we want. Is that right?
You go defense.
The person I'm interested in watching this year that I think has a real chance of a breakout is Lucas Van Ness. I think back with the Packers, they've done this a couple times before where they have 2 pretty good, reliable edge rushers. And they draft a 3rd guy, have him sit for most of a year and a half, and then start bringing him in. You'll remember Rashawn Gary, right? They drafted him. And what was it? He was picked in the 1st round, right? Very early, like just outside the top 10. Started 0 games his rookie season. Then they started bringing him in the second half of his rookie season, the second half of his second year. He started playing more games, put up 5 or 6 sacks, I think. And then once they started starting him, he broke out, had a 10-sack season, played really, really well. I think Lucas Van Ness, I'm not sure what the health of the defensive line is going to look like, but I think they're going to need him sooner. And once they start playing him, the Packers' patience that we've seen work out so well at the quarterback position is going to do wonders again at the edge rusher position. I don't get it. Why are the Packers the only team in the NFL that at positions that are critical to success, when they have decent players, they just draft guys and develop them and wait for them to be good? I don't get it. It's ridiculous.
Smart. Yeah.
They got the blueprint.
Smart. They know what they're doing. They know what to value. From Go Pack Go Infinity says, who would you rather have as your quarterback, Jordan Love or Tua? Turn the ball over. Then
it's a good. If producer Zach were here, you'd be getting beat up right now. You'd wish
Zach
a bloody nose.
Zach would be on Jordan.
I think Zach's anti to it at this point.
About 5 spaces below that question, we have this is a joke. So just a stray being thrown at Tua there. But Go Pack Go Infinity. Yeah, Jordan Love. Right now.
Jordan Love.
I'm still excited to see how Jordan Love looks the first month of the season. Like, it's hard to look the way he did the second half. I think he'll be very good, but I'm not completely sold that he's a top. I think he will be, but not sold he's a top 10 yet. Riley Cruz 2307 says, "Would you?" So this is a hypothetical here. Would you, as a Vikings fan, trade 1 first-round pick, a 3rd as well, and JJ McCarthy for Aaron Rodgers? Not right now.
No,
not right now. At 40. Or going to be 40 maybe. I
trade a 3rd round pick.
And the injury history. I don't
want Aaron Rodgers on my team. Get him out of here.
If the Vikings
seen the damage
was a little bit better, I might roll the dice because I'm not huge.
It wouldn't even matter.
No, Paul, you don't. Aaron Rodgers is embarrassing the Jets. Do you know how hard that is to embarrass the New York Jets?
Well, here's what it is. Would you trade all that for if you got the version of like Brett Favre that you got for that 1 year? No. Believe in Rodgers. I mean, I might do it. I'm not the biggest JJ McCarthy believer in the world. I'm rooting for him, of course. But So I'm not super confident. So like, there's a world where I can be talked into that. I know it's crazy, but it totally depends on your belief in Rodgers.
You give this team prime Peyton Manning, they're not winning a Super Bowl. I'm not even sure they're going to the NFC Championship. But like, that's the thing, is I'm not willing to give up on JJ McCarthy, who we gave up a bunch for, and a first and third round pick that we need to replace Rodgers when he's out, for a guy who's probably going to suck. And if he doesn't suck, is going to keep us slightly relevant for 1 year and then leave to go do whatever it is Aaron Rodgers does.
I might take a swing if you had an elite defense, but
like that 2009 Vikings team was ready to roll outside a quarterback. This one, we just have a few too many holes to give up on all that. But look, I mean, seasons like that don't come often when you're a Vikings fan. So if you really, I could see people who really believe in Rodgers being like, "F it, let's go for it for 1 or 2 years." But then there are people like Ziggy who think it's over, and that trade is ridiculous. From R Ben 5, he says, "Do you think the Eagles will be better than last year? How well do you think the defense will be?" Philadelphia. So we covered them a lot more in the NFC East preview show that you could go check out. We really got into it. As far as their defense goes, like here are some of the changes. In 2022, they were 8th in points allowed. That fell off to 30th last year. They were the number 1 passing defense in 2022. That fell to 31st. I mean, we're talking about the changes the Eagles defense had last season were just unbelievable. And honestly, it was mostly the second half of the season. They went from being an okay defense to just downright horrendous. They had 4.5 sacks the final 8 games combined, 0 from Josh Sweat, 1 game from Hassan Reddick from week 10 on with a sack. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis fell off the face of the earth. The defense was allowing huge plays. Went from the number 1 run defense in the NFL from week 11 on, 31st. Like, it was a monumental collapse. And I have to imagine now bringing in Vic Fangio, this team is too talented to not improve. Will the record get better? 11-6 is a pretty good record. So I think they'll actually probably stay in that range. But the play that the Eagles have, they're not going to go into the wild card round next year and get embarrassed the way they did against Tampa. I'd be very surprised to see that.
I mean, their defense last year, for the most part, was abysmal.
I mean, like flat out horrendous.
Yeah, like horrendous. It's tough to be worse. I know you got some new faces there and stuff, but I'm going to say they'll improve. It's hard not to.
The play will improve, yes, from the second half of the year. They're too good to not get better.
Yeah.
Record.
I think you said it right, Paul. Given how they played last year, they were pretty lucky to go 11-6. It's unlikely they'll have a much better record than that. To do better than 11-6, you've got to have one of the best seasons in the NFL and then some.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the defense, certainly, it is impossible for it to be worse than last year.
It can't be. In the beginning of the year, those first 10, 11 games when they were 10-1, we kept saying, this feels like they're covering up mistakes and getting away with it rather than finding a way to win because they're a good team. So
good call out that we're always right on this show.
Yeah.
Right. How many Eagles fans came in and said, "You guys are ridiculous. You're not prioritizing our real record. You're looking at these stats. We're going to dominate the NFL. You'll see."
Yeah.
We're never wrong. I have never said anything. I dare anyone in the comments pull up a video, link it, find one time when I was wrong about anything. You won't. It doesn't happen on this show.
From Dobby the Dominator, he says, "If Daniel Jones is absolutely awful to start the season, do you think Drew Lock could steal the starting job? I think Jones stinks and Lock should already be the starter, but would love to hear your takes."
He's making too much. It's impossible. Yeah, you can't do it.
Can I just want to put, a lot of people on the outside are talking about the Daniel Jones thing, and I think that makes sense. But you have to look at it from the perspective of what the Giants think, right? The Giants in 2022 decided that he was good enough to earn a $160 million contract. He hasn't done anything out of line with his previous performance, right? So if internally they thought this guy's worth a huge contract, all that's happened since then is one sort of injury-riddled season. If Daniel Jones puts up like 10 touchdowns and 6 interceptions through 11 games next year, that's right on track with his 2021 season.
I don't know. I mean, Ziggy last year, before he got hurt against the Raiders, he was 1-4 with 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. I mean, that's
not that much worse than he was in 2021, where he's 4-7 with 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. I'm just saying, like, this guy has been bad.
You know the difference. The record's flipped.
No, I'm talking about 2021 when he was 4-7.
Well, no.
2022 was an okay year. I just mean, if you look at his
2022 is what they're
work,
judging the contract off of.
The 2022 year was not all that good. I don't know how bad Daniel Jones would have to. Season. I don't know how bad he would have to perform for them to change their mind on this contract. But if you are, I mean, Drew Lock, really?
That's what I'm saying.
Drew Lock's he's not any better.
I'd rather roll the dice on Daniel Jones, the guy. Let's put aside the money, because the money we already saw. Joe Shane talked about we're not paying him this money to hand the ball off to Barkley. That weighed in on their decision on Saquon to some degree. But even if we put the money aside, which should be factored in, you then go like, all right, flat out, who's better, Daniel Jones or Drew Lock? I'm probably going Daniel Jones anyway. And if Daniel Jones, they start the year 1-7 or something like that, and the Giants make the decision, all right, we're moving on after this season. Let's just see what this Drew Lock kid, who's 27, same age as Daniel Jones, but let's just see what he's got. Maybe he's better than the career he had with Seattle and Denver beforehand. We could give it a go, but I just don't think with either of those guys, if Daniel Jones doesn't work out, I'd be shocked if Drew Lock came in and saved the season. But I think it would have to be so catastrophic with Jones that you make the decision, we're never going back to him again.
I know we're not a Giants podcast, but I have to say something about that Daniel Jones quote, because I think it's ridiculous. You made a bad decision with the Daniel Jones contract, right? And now you're sitting back saying, well, we've invested so much in Daniel Jones as if he were a good player. We're just going to pretend that he's a good player because we're paying him like he is and let our actually good players leave. Like, say what you will about running backs and whether they matter or not. Saquon Barkley is a good NFL player. When he's been healthy, he's consistently produced. He's excellent at catching the ball. Like, Saquon's a good player. Even Jack will tell you that. The fact that you're letting You're letting the fact that you gave Daniel Jones a terrible contract be proof in your mind that he's actually good. That's ridiculous. Yeah, the Giants will get what they deserve. You've run into Joe Shane before, sort of on the street, Yeah, he's your buddy.
Yeah.
You can let him know that Ziggy says he's a clown.
The last question here from Stuckman. He says, let's say hypothetically, for the sake of the argument, we give Ziggy an official nickname. Now, this is no official. I mean, Ziggy's official nickname is Ziggy, first off, but which would we pick? So, Ziggy, which of these do you like? The Ziegler, Zigmeister, the Philosopher, Zed, or Zigosaurus?
Can I rank those?
Please.
So,
you got 5 to 1.
Yeah, number 5, we've got Zed. Horrendous. Yeah, terrible nickname. That's British. I'm not British. I never want to be British. I'm proud to not be British. That's terrible. Number 4, we've got the Ziegler. That name, I'm not sure it's fair. It brings up certain connotations in my mind about people I don't want to be associated with. Like you find out that like there's a criminal ring run by someone named the Ziegler. You can guess what they were doing. It sounds too much like the Diddler, and I'm not doing that. Number 3, you've got the Philosopher. Okay, nickname, not bad, but first of all, someone already has a nickname, the Philosopher. It's Aristotle. And second of all, I think it's a little too on the nose. Number 2, this is where it starts to get tough. I'm going to put Zigmeister there. Not a bad nickname, but not particularly original. I've been called that before. Never really stood out to me as all that exciting. On the other hand, I could go for Zigosaurus. I think that's an easy one. I like the Zigosaurus. I think it's a solid nickname. If someone in the comments said, yo, Zigosaurus, and like followed it up with something, I like it.
I think I flip 1 and 2. I think the Zigmeister is my one.
Well, you call him Zigmeister.
The Zigmeister.
See, Zigmeister's it's not as novel to me. That's why it's down there. It might be the better nickname, all things considered, but it doesn't excite me.
I call him Zig Dog.
So, yeah, Zig Dog's pretty good too.
Zig Dog.
So, Zigosaurus. There you go, Stuckman. A couple quick questions. He has a serious question I have is the following. How's everyone doing today? You always give us your football takes, but we rarely get to hear about your day, so we should check in on you. All good here, enjoying the off season before it gets real busy for us. But yeah, Jack and I went to the Luke Combs concert. Ziggy is moved back, watched the end of the Tour de France, France, if that makes you feel better. I think everyone's doing pretty well, right?
Yeah, no complaints.
Yeah. Life's good. I just doing the teaching grind. My students are learning all about life, death, and immortality. It's a fun time.
Ziggy makes sure they're subscribed to the show before walking into the classroom every single day. That's a check. So we get some bonus subscribers that way. Can you imagine? UVA.
I actually once told a student not to subscribe to our podcast.
Additionally, is there any world where you guys make a Discord server to allow fans to hang out, chat, give ideas for video topics? It could also allow you multiple ways to promote interaction with fans, including giveaways, hangout sessions, and VCs, or special channels and events specifically for YouTube members. We're always talking about things like that. I don't think at this point in time a Discord server is probably going to come soon, but maybe by sometime the end of the season we could get going towards that. There's a lot of other things we're working out right now, but yeah, it's not a bad idea at all. Definitely something.
Anytime someone has suggestions for things they want us to do, improve the show, offer stuff for members, whatever, feel free to slide in and give us a little comment. Won't always do what you say, but we're always happy to hear suggestions. So we appreciate that.
So we appreciate it, of course, everyone who always listens. Thank you guys again for subscribing, for interacting with us. It means a lot. And we'll see you next Tuesday for the Paul Farrington Show. See you.